Awesome, thanks. Well, I want to be as engaging as you guys want to be, so if you have questions and stuff, please don't be shy. Throw them out. Like this time's really for you guys to learn, and I'm just so excited for where you're at in your life and the decisions you're making right now, because you are becoming who you're going to be in the future, and that's a really cool place to be. A little bit more about me. Well, how many of you were here yesterday? I did a little lunch yesterday. I know I recognize you, but so hopefully I don't overlap too much, but I'm going to share some of my story again, and so some of you might get a little bit of a double dose. So I grew up in Bountiful, Utah, primarily. When I was like 5 or 6, my family got an old Apple Mac computer with a 5.5-inch floppy, and I loved playing Frogger and all the video games that you could play on that thing, and that was like my intro to computers and technology, and I just fell in love with it. Did everything possible I could to make sure that my path lined up with technology after that. I knew who I was, I identified it very fast, and I just loved it. I also loved math. I remember in school, I'm the kid that blew the curve whenever the teacher said whatever the highest score is 100. I was the kid that got the 100 that blew all the scores for everybody else. Because math was just my thing. Like I love technology, I love math, and it was just like I enjoyed those elements of school. My family moved to Mexico City when I was 9. My dad was doing some work down there, so I kind of got to know another culture, learned some Spanish, bounced back and forth between Bountiful and Mexico a few times. I served a mission for my church in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So the Spanish I didn't learn in Mexico, I picked up in Argentina, and now I talk more like an Argentine than a Mexican when I speak in Spanish. So that's just a little bit about me and my growing days. Like they said, I went to BYU, I did computer science. I loved college, it was a great time, had awesome friends, had fun, learned a little bit, enough to graduate. I felt like I was always a little bit behind on my classes. Like I'd get to the next class and be like, that's what they were talking about last year when they were talking about a certain topic. But so don't be too disheartened if something's a little challenging or tough or you're falling behind. School's kind of a marathon. It's not really a race. You'll get through it. And I'm glad I did. But the only thing I truly miss about school is that reset button you get every semester, right? Like when the semester ends, doesn't matter what happened, reset, your grades are all reset, and you can start over again. You don't really get that in the business world or in real life very often, right? Like I have to keep dealing with the problems that I deal with forever or until I solve them, and they don't just magically go away because the semester ends. So that's one thing that I do envy about you guys in your position is you're just so flexible and you can be what you want to be. You can change your mind like that and start something new if you want to. And so for that reason, like it's really cool that you're in business and entrepreneurship type classes because you're at a great age to take risks and with very little consequence. And you can hit home runs at this age too. Like a lot of the big tech companies that exist today, their founders did it when they were your age, when they were in school and college, and they had that time and those resources to just pour their heart into their passion. So if anything, I'd encourage you to find something that you're passionate about during this time and really latch into that. So any questions about that? It's pretty basic. So when I graduated, I got a job opportunity at Namify, and I replaced the part-time IT guy. I came on as the full-time IT guy, and I was there, and no one really knew what I could do because I was replacing a part-time guy. The company hadn't really leaned on the IT department too much, and so they left me to my devices, and I could pretty much do whatever I wanted to, but I took advantage of that time, and I'm like, I plan to be here for a while, and they have this website, and I've heard that they make a lot of custom changes, so I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite the whole entire website. And so I did that in my spare time, and then like a few months in, I walked up to the CEO, and I'm like, here's your new website, I just built it for you, and he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, it's live now, and that kind of began my journey. He's like, I would have never told you to do that, but in the end, he was glad I did because I really got to understand how our database worked, where all of our orders were, and what Namify does. I probably should clarify that too. So we're a branding company. So shirts, hats, jackets, pretty much anything you can put a logo on. You know, I look around the room and I see lots of branded apparel and branded hats. We produce and manufacture those kinds of items. So we'll bring the items in from our suppliers and we'll put the embroidery on, or we'll screen print the item or laser engrave it so that people can get it. And what's interesting about that is, you know, everybody wants to brand, right? Like when a company reaches a certain size, they're like, people need to know who we are. We got to get our identity out there. We got to get our logo out there. And so one of the ways they do that is they'll buy promotional items, they'll buy apparel, and distribute it. And they hope that the people who get that will do what? That they'll put it on, they'll wear it, they'll maybe take a picture and upload it to social media if they're lucky. Like that's what they're hoping that you'll do with these things. And that maybe that you'll connect with the brand and feel that sense of purpose. Like, I don't know, look at what you're wearing. Why did you pick what you're wearing today? Is it a brand that you connect with? Is it something that you love? Like, so many of us have those things, whether it's a sports team or maybe it's a brand that we're just like, for whatever reason, it speaks to us and we connect with it. And you just look around, every one of you has a different style. So if I'm an owner of a company and I want to give all of my employees a gift, I can spend all day long. I can organize a committee. I can go take polls. Maybe I'll just make the executive decision, say, hey, we're all getting Carhartt jackets. I hope you love them as much as I do. But the point I'm making is it doesn't matter how much time or effort you put into picking out those gifts. Like, all of you are different people. You all have your own style. And you're all going to appreciate that gift at a different level, right? Some of you are going to love it, and some of you are going to absolutely hate it and think it's a total waste and wish that I would have never given it to you. You'd be like, that was a waste of money. You could have done literally anything else with it and it would have been better than giving me this jacket. And so that's where Axomo comes in. So around, I don't know, year, halfway through, so probably about year 8 of my career, I was kind of given the charge like, hey, make ordering easier. We had just experienced a thing that Google put out an update and it totally ruined all of our organic rankings. Like when I started, when you searched lanyards or name tags, we weren't just number 1, but we were number 1, number 2, and number 4 because we had all these feeder sites that fed into our network, and it was really hard not to buy name tags from our company. But when they released these updates in 2012, like it just ruined everything. Like overnight, we literally lost all of our organic leads that came through Google. I spent the next year or two like trying to understand SEO, trying to get our rankings back up, and I concluded in the end that that was never going to happen because Google's algorithm now is based not only off of where you are, but what do you like, what do your friends like. Like their whole goal is to do what? It's to get you what you want fast, right? And so they're going to use all that personal data and all that algorithm to get you your results, and what number 1 for you is going to be different than what's number 1 for someone else. Just like I said, you all have different styles, right? So we gave up on that dream, and I just set out to do what I thought Google wanted. Like I'm like, I got to build the best ordering platform to make it the easiest for people to get swag. That's ultimately what people are looking for. Google wants to give them that, so let's do that. So we created what I then called the brand store. And I'm like, makes it really easy to reorder stuff. And that was kind of the beginnings of Axomo. As I worked really closely with our clients, our founder drilled that into me over and over. He's like, you got to make this feedback flywheel where we listen to the client, take it, implement it, and give it back to them. And so I took that feedback really seriously. Like I made it so easy to submit feedback. It was literally like, I had a little bubble that's like question mark. You press the button and it's like submit feedback, and it would take a screenshot of the picture and it would send it right to me and my dev team, and we would just literally implement every feature that clients requested. I'd jump on the phone, I'd talk to them, I'd understand why are you asking for these things, and then over time it just grew to the point where like, hey, this is really cool. Like they actually love ordering their stuff. And we helped a company with a rebrand, and even internally we're like, hey, we make swag, like let's let our employees choose what they want. And so this concept was born of, rather than just selling the swag, that we would actually get that decision to the end user. And so we came up with this whole credit system where rather than you as the boss just picking stuff, you could take that same money, give everybody $100 and let them jump on and they could pick what they want. And that just blew up. And it was super awesome. Like, people loved it. They were getting great feedback. Suddenly people went from like kind of liking the item that they got to like having it be their favorite item because they picked it out. It meant something to them. They wore it in their life. They took pictures with it because they were wearing it when they went out with their friends, and it was just a very organic, natural thing. Fast forward a little bit more, COVID comes, and you know what's really funny about COVID is, where did all the workers go? Home, right? So they all went to their house, they couldn't come to the office, and we had a bunch of secretaries who were used to ordering 500 shirts and then just handing them out to people at their desks. And they couldn't do that anymore. And so we had a lot of phone calls from a lot of very grateful office assistants or admins who would come and say, you just saved me everything. Like, my house had all these boxes in it, I had all these packages, I was running to FedEx and trying to cram 200 boxes into my car. Like, people just were not set up to distribute remotely. And so we got another nice little wave of influx from COVID too. And it's just been an adventure. We failed a ton, but we've overcome those failures and we've learned even more, and we keep growing today. So that's kind of my quick version of my story. Questions from you guys?
What's been one of the biggest failures, and what do you learn from it along that journey?
Well, I mean, the SEO blowing up, not a failure of our own, but that was a failure. We also went to Europe too early. Like, I was telling them earlier, like, we tried opening an office in Europe back when I was like, I don't know, year 2 of my employment, and we sold one badge holder over there. Like, one. Over, like, this is like, I don't know, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of buildings and fees over years that we sold like a badge holder. We just jumped the gun, but ironically, we're to the point now where we're trying to expand globally, and we have a vendor over there. We're going a little slower because we're a little smarter. So that's definitely one of the more embarrassing ones along the way.
How does the process of slower look like as far as, trying to expand internationally?
Is the process of what?
Like expanding
Slower?
Internationally, because when you're online, you kind of already, you can implement, you can internationally ship or do.
Yeah, so international is interesting, right? Because we can already export everywhere, but it's super pricey, right? So a lot of our clients want that same local feeling, domestic rates where I can just ship. And so rather than just going there and hoping that we're gonna like get clients like we did last time, we find some partners over there. We have a partner in India right now, one in the Czech Republic, one in Canada, and one in Australia, who actually does what Nameify does. They produce the branded goods, and we've kind of sold them on Axomo and the vision and the power of choice and letting people choose what they want, and they're like, that sounds great. And so we've added their items to our platform where the employees in those regions can still buy it and participate in all the technology we've developed, and then those orders feed into our partners.
So it's just outsourced pretty much?
What's that?
It's like outsourced pretty much?
Yeah, so it's outsourced for now, but we got that, maintain that level of quality because we have a good relationship with them. And we'll see what happens in the future. If it blows up and we need to end up being over there, we'll go over there too.
And then as far as like cultural differences with clothing, is that also a challenge?
It's not because we got the locals running it, right? So they tell us what's cool. And the other fun thing about Axomo is when you're on it, if you don't see something that you like, you can request it. And so if we get those locals shopping and they know what the cool, trendy brands are, they can ask.
So do you guys deal with the manufacturing of the do you guys actually physically do the printing?
Yeah, so the decoration part, right? So we don't make the shirt.
Right.
But we'll bring it in from our suppliers, and so when you order that hat,
Right.
our purchaser orders it in from our supplier, gets to us in a day or two, and then we have all the manufacturing equipment that we do the decoration in-house.
And is that at a separate, do you guys have warehouses with all the equipment with that, or do you guys have an office and then it's also paired up with that?
One big location right now.
Okay.
Sales, manufacturing, marketing, and my tech team, we all are in that office up in Springville. We kind of pushed capacity, but then when we started going vertical with some of our racks and stuff, and so like over the last few years, we've just
Blown up.
grown like crazy, and it's been it's been a ride, and we, the economy's slowing down a little bit, and so it's letting us breathe, but we're just breathing and prepping for the next big push.
Okay. Also, so with the manufacturing and whatnot, when you guys, hold on,
I got it.
yeah.
So you have a good background in Mexico.
I do.
Manufacturing costs are really cheap in Mexico. Why not bring the company to Mexico?
It's not time yet, that's all I can say. Again, the growth has been such that, we barely managed to keep up with the growth as it is, that we haven't had time to. And like I said, some of these questions are things we are asking, like, when you're in growth mode, you don't really realize all the money you're spending. You're just like, hey, I need iPads, buy iPads. Hey, we need racks, buy racks. We need a forklift, buy a forklift. There's money in the bank, life is good, right? So, that was kind of a phase we were going through, and now that, we haven't seen a dip, we're still growing, but it's leveled off some for sure. And that's giving us time right now to ask some of those questions. Yeah.
So how do you know when to bring in a new swag item, and when is it gonna be profitable versus when is it gonna, eat too much money and cost you too much?
So because it's all just-in-time fulfillment, and we have an awesome relationship with our suppliers, we don't need to worry about the answer to that question.
So
Right?
you request like a certain amount of items, or if somebody asks for one hat, you request one hat?
One half. So.
Yeah, so there.
So is that not cost effective for
That's
you guys?
that is a great question. So, our volume is such that it doesn't matter how many we're ordering, because we're spending millions of dollars with these companies. And so if I ask for one, they're gonna send me one, right? But for our end user, the funny thing about our industry is traditionally in the promo world, it's all about price. It's like, I got my buddy down the street, he can print shirts, they're really cheap. I'm gonna go with him. And we experienced that all through my career, where it was like, if our sales rep left or their purchaser left, there was probably an 80% chance we'd lose that client, right? Because when the new person comes in, they already had a relationship somewhere else. So when you're talking traditional promo, it's super price sensitive, and it's not economically feasible to do a one-off, and you'll hear that over and over again. But with Axoma, one of the differences, the relationship is not with a person, it's with the entire company. So when that purchaser leaves and another person comes in, they're like, that's great, you got your buddy, but what are you gonna do about this whole platform? And they're like, yeah, that's kind of cool, actually, we'll just keep using the platform. And with the platform, as far as like the ROI goes, from a business perspective, I tell people, well, what's your budget for shirts? I don't know, we're gonna spend 10 grand this year. And I'm like, great, take that same 10 grand, divide it by however many people you have, and give them that. Maybe that's $30, maybe that's $40, but the price doesn't really matter. The thing is once the employee gets it, even if that hat costs $2 or $3 more, they love it and they want it and they don't care. And in fact, some people want a North Face jacket and they get $40, and the North Face jacket costs more like $160. We found people are willing to take their own $80 from their own credit card and swipe it and get that jacket, because it's about getting that individual piece. And so in some ways, we've transcended the problem that is, doesn't it cost more to do one? And the answer is, yep, it does, and you will gladly pay for it.
So you have that option to allow the customer to put in their own money once they see the site. Just say, put in your credit card, and you can actually get that better item that you like.
Yep. And we found that in every organization, there's about 15% of people who hate branding. It just makes them feel like a billboard, they will not wear it. And all those people, you save that money because they won't spend it, and you can find other ways to engage them. But for every one of them, there's a fanatic who absolutely loves the brand, and they love spending their own money on it because it speaks to them, and it's just who they are. And so that's been one of the most incredible things about the power of choice. Is yes, it costs more, and yes, you are happy to pay for it, even though it costs more, because you get exactly what you want. There's one back there.
Yeah, so you started at the very early days of Axoma, right?
I did, yeah.
What did you and your team at Axoma find most effective from going like a really small branding company to turning yourself into a giant and like collecting those clients' badges?
Yeah, so one thing was just listening to them, right? Like listening to the clients and understanding what they want is definitely one of the more important things, that when you're in that growth mode. We were really blessed. Like, again, they were probably, Namify was there maybe 5-6 years before I joined. And during that phase, like, our founder just timed the market right, where internet was pretty new. He was first to market and putting name tags online. Like, you could buy stuff online, but he was the first one to put name tags online where people could order that. And we built a huge client base from it. But now we're to the point where we rely, like, because our pitch is so different, like, again, if I'm selling you swag, it's hard to market to you. You have an event, you're like, I need it now, and you call me up and I'm like, yep, we can do that for you, we agree on price, and that is a very transactional sale. With Axomo, it becomes more about like, let me sell you this on this idea of, rather than you picking and buying in bulk, like, just again, take those same monies and give them to your team and let them choose, and it's gonna be a better experience. And some people are looking for that, they want a company swag store or something like that, and that sale goes a little faster, but even then, because we're like changing culture in an organization, it's about a 3-month sales cycle, which has led to some really cool things for us, because we can see these are how many demos we have. We know that we have a 30 to 40% closure rate on demos, and we know it takes about 3 months, and so we start getting forecasting, and we know, depending on your subscription size, you'll typically do about 10x that in product revenue. And so it lets our finance team and our organization be a lot more forward thinking, whereas before it was just like, hey, guess what? We had this client call up and they ordered 10,000 shirts today. Great, why did they do that? I don't know, but they just did it. When are they I have no idea when they're doing it again. And next year when they do it again, you're lucky if it's the same person, because if it's not, you lost the relationship. And even if it is, they might go bid that out and price gouge you, drop you down to nothing. So it's just a different beast. Did you think of your question?
I have a couple now.
Oh boy.
So when Axomo started, was it a branch off of Namify? So like, how did you guys get the manufacturing? Like, how did you attain the equipment to start manufacturing and to get the stuff all built? How'd you throw it all together?
Yeah, so Namify funded Axomo. Axomo doesn't exist without Namify, without the relationship there.
Okay.
Our founder really, it was funny because at one point in my career he came to me, he's like, I need you to make the IT department profitable. Like, traditionally IT departments are flat holes. They suck all the resources from the company. They just exist.
Right.
They're a support piece, right?
Mhm.
And so he challenged me one day to make it profitable. And I had no idea how I would do that. But Axomo has been the way I did that. Because now we, in addition to supplying all the product, we have this SaaS product that we can offer. And it brings in subscription. It pays for my dev team. But Namify is Namify and Axomo is Axomo to a degree. It's something that we actually struggle with internally, like as far as like problems go.
Right.
It's caused confusion for some of our newer employees because they don't see the relationship. They're like, what is Namify? What is Axomo?
Okay.
When I talk it in the simplest sense, I'm like, well, just like Apple made the iPhone, Namify made Axomo. And that's kind of the relationship. But from a business and marketing perspective, it's going to be interesting to see how it continues to evolve.
Right.
Because Axomo has the much stronger value proposition, right?
Right.
When I come to you and I tell you about this awesome software that changes culture and lets people get what they want, versus, hey, we sell shirts or hats and you can put your logo on everything. While it's the exact same thing, the value prop is just so much stronger with Axomo. So that's an internal thing that we debate about all the time, is what is the future of the two.
Okay, and then when they're putting their brand on their shirt or whatever image or whatever product they want,
Yep.
do they get to, like, do they have to go in individually and say, this is where I want it, this is how I want it to look? Do they have to insert the image, or do you guys do that all for them?
Evolution of things there too.
Okay.
So at the beginning, it followed your traditional route. If you've ever ordered promotional products, you might have gotten proof where it's like, hey, here's my logo, and you go back and forth with the design team. You're like, make it bigger, move it here, do this, do that. That's how it started, and it was a very manual process, but we knew it wouldn't scale. So we created what is called the item designer, where we've created images and we've highlighted all the print areas and we've put default print locations where it's the optimal place. And so when you load up an item, it's already got your logo on it, it's already sized right, and it's right in the perfect spot. Perfect according to us, right? But then you can play with it and move it if you want to.
Okay.
And so if you're a design type inclined person, you can get what you want. But if you're not, that doesn't need to be a barrier to getting started. You can just be like, nope, let's add these 5 shirts, and then it'll take care of it for you.
So from my understanding is that you guys buy one hat or whatever, you guys don't hold a lot overhead, correct?
Just in time inventory.
So then how fast does that like
It's about 2
reflect back
weeks.
on the client? So from when I designed my shirt, then it would take 2 weeks to get.
Yep, which is tough, right? In today's world, like everyone's used to Amazon now, where it's like, I ordered it today, and in some cases, I get it today. And so that's a little bit challenging, but if speed is your thing, we do offer an inventory service as well, where you can warehouse them with us, and you can produce them, and we'll hold them. And then as people order them, you can ship them. You know, and then you can go back to that traditional, I order in bulk, I get my bulk discount. I don't need to worry about the cost changing as costs change, right? But everyone loses when they do that, as I look at the data. They think they win, but like they sit on this inventory, like it's a sunk cost to them. Eventually they rebrand and they have all this useless inventory sitting there with us, and they gotta like fire sale it and give it away. So while you can do that, I really like to show people that there's a better way. And even though, again, you're paying more per piece and you're waiting a little bit longer, sometimes good things are worth waiting for.
So do you have a system in place to recontact all those connections that you have to let them know that, hey, it's time, it's that annual Christmas party, it's whatever, time for you to order so that it's there in 2 weeks? Do you have anything like that structured?
So we have, like, again, everyone who signs up uses it a little different. Like at the core, they're doing the same thing, but they have different events, different campaigns. And so they all get an account manager, which will understand and work with them on that to make sure that they can hit those dates and not be left without. But you get so many people that are last minute anyway, right? And in some organizations, they're like, well, as long as they bought it by Christmas, I guess they don't really need it by Christmas. And so they'll even hand out their credits like on December 20th sometimes, just to be like, well, at least they got the credit. And again, like, while I'd love to make it faster, it's just when you're making something custom on the fly that's to fit, it's hard to do that, and people love it.
How does your marketing strategy really go into play here? Because I understand how like you're making those personal connections, but in terms of like the public atmosphere, like individual customers, how are you guys trying to hit those customers on the head?
We are not doing great with that, and it's something that we need to do better. We did just hire a CMO he's phasing out of a few projects right now. He's working with us on Tuesdays and Thursdays, but that is one of his assignments, is to figure that out, because we have just grown very organically, very quickly, but I've always felt we've left a lot on the table when it comes to our marketing and our story, because it's such a fun story and such a cool story that if they could really get that out there, and we have, again, our relationship isn't one-to-one anymore, it's one to a whole company, and we have all those users with all those eyeballs who are on our platform using it, and we're just like, we have to do better there. And that is not my forte. I'm the techie nerdy guy, but I do see the wasted opportunity there, and I'm super excited for him to come in and just elevate that to another level for us.
Which one?
Here, I'll go. All right, before I forget. So, do the credits expire when a company like says they want to buy $10,000 of merchandise from you guys? Do they eventually expire?
It's up to them. So we don't. It doesn't expire with us, right? So that is another evolution of things. At the beginning, we just let them give out whatever they want, and they pay us after it was redeemed. We're to the point now where, for scalability, we realize we're not a bank, so we can't extend credit to everyone forever. So we require companies to prepay for the credits they're going to give out. They don't have to prepay all of their credits. They can still overextend themselves, where they might give us a $5,000 deposit and give out 10 grand in credit, because, like I said, I know not everyone will redeem it, and especially not right away. And then they can set up auto deposits, so it just keeps that balance in line with as the employees spend. But as far as like, do they expire for the end user? That's up to the company. Most let them last forever. I've seen a few hit a reset button at the end of the year where they're just like, we want to expire it and start fresh, right? Get that liability off our books and stuff like that. And so we give them those things. I actually don't mind them expiring it, because it creates that sense of urgency, and it makes their employees actually go spend it.
Well, so back on that, because like I understand like gift cards, for example.
Yeah.
right? They expire after a certain amount of time, or the company goes bankrupt, but they hold that money, and it's like a loan. They can, invest
Yep.
it and make money off that.
Yeah, so gift cards, unless they go bankrupt, should never expire. But these aren't gift cards; they're just credits. And it does. It's a $10,000. If you give me 10 grand, it's going to be a liability on my books. Yes, I have your $10,000, but at any point in time, you can go and say, "Hey, give me my $10,000 back," and I better be able to give you your $10,000 back, right?
Oh.
All right. So how often do you guys use AI, and is that like a taboo
Ooh.
thing in the office? Or?
You know, AI is so exciting, right? So that's a good question. So, it's obviously an exploding new field, right? ChatGPT is my friend. I talk to ChatGPT all the time. I brainstorm with it. It helps me write code, helps me form some algorithms. I'm super excited for it and the future. AI for us, where I'm really excited about is some of those business analytics where, we're always asking questions like, why did this client leave us, right? How could we have known that before? What were the signs? Like, what should we be looking at? Should we be looking at like the percentage of credit used? Should we look at the percentage of orders, percentage of people logging in? Like, we have all these questions, and I'm really excited when AI can just sit right there and tell me, hey, this person is going to leave you if you don't call them and start talking to them, right?
Right.
So from that point of view, I love it. I also love AI for just business intelligence and knowledge base, right? Like, that's a problem that we have with our organization. We have about 200 employees, and we have so many processes and so many positions, and things are changing and evolving so fast. It's not uncommon to hear like, we need better training, or I've never been trained on this, or like, I don't know how to do this. And there's a lot of time wasted with employees talking to other employees or their supervisor or whoever just to try and figure out what it is they're supposed to do. And I'm excited when I could take all of our statement of, what are they called, SOPs, the standard operating procedures, and upload those into a nice, beautiful knowledge base, and they could talk to it like ChatGPT. That's my dream, and I've told many people if that product doesn't exist in the next, I don't know, really now 6 months, because I said that a year ago. If it's not out in the next year, I should probably just go start another company and make it, because that is a huge problem with small businesses and even large ones. It's just company knowledge.
Right.
So I'm really excited for AI. As a developer, it's going to make you up your game, right? You can't just be a code copier anymore where you're copying and pasting things, because it's going to do all that. But you're really going to have to understand what it is you're doing and be able to still guide these robots to create what you want to create. Yeah. Anyone else? Just give other people a chance if they want. But if not, yeah, right there.
What is, as the CTO, what is your day-to-day? Is there stuff you do every day, or is it just different every day?
It's been different every day, and that's why I loved it. Variety has kept me happy as can be in my job. But currently, right now, I recently took back on project management role for Axomo, where I wanted to, too many people, everybody wants everything all the time. I'm always getting asked, our marketing team wants this, our sales team wants that, production team needs this, and they all have their little features that are going to make their lives better and easier. And while I love helping them out and I love automating things, we spend too much time working on things that don't truly add value. And so I've recently taken back over the project management reins so that I can hopefully bring some more structure and organization to how we build for the future as far as our tech stack's concerned. And that's one of my big focuses. We're working on establishing culture within the dev team. These aren't finalized, but just last week it was from our meeting. I kind of got our values are going to be 5 S's that I want to focus on, which are scalability, security, speed, simplification of the code, and then what is my 5th one? There's 5, and they're all S's. But anyway, I'm forming those right now, but just the speed and the scalability and the security is going to be paramount for Axomo's future, right? We're to the point now where I can handle our current user load, but if that 10x's or something, we're currently in trouble. And so it's I got to look at that and get some smarter people in that can help me build a system that can just scale and scale up, scale down as the user demand comes. So that's kind of where I look for in the future. The global growth is obviously super important to our future, is figuring out those vendor relationships. We pitched American Express 2 years ago, and their main thing was, come talk to us when you got global figured out, because we want it for everybody. If you can figure it out for everybody, then we'll listen to you. FedEx was another one that I pitched, and they were also really big on the speed element. They're like, it needs to be faster. So there's just certain things that I'm really excited about in the future. And like I said, like, those are two huge companies that, you know, if they're even talking to me, I'm feeling really good about what we're doing. So.
What would you say your biggest factor is on the speed? Like, why does it take 2 weeks? Is that the shipping? Is that processing? What does it take so much time?
For the production? Yeah, I mean, so depending, best case scenario right now, we're looking at probably 2 days, but really 3. I don't know how it's ever gonna get faster than that, because if I order it from a supplier who can get it to me tomorrow, which we have a few in Salt Lake and I think in Reno that can get it to us in a day. It takes a day for us to get in our facility. In theory, if it got sorted fast enough and on the machine, you could get out the next day. So that would be like, so that's the absolute fastest. But a lot of these brands that exist that people love, some of them are coming from the East Coast. So I'm waiting 5 days to even get the apparel and the garment into our facility. We also like to wait a little bit because it allows us to batch, right? When a company launches something, like, just because you ordered a shirt and you ordered a shirt, if you're from the same company, odds are that's the same logo, getting the same logo, and it's in the same spot, and our system's smart enough that it recognizes that, and it funnels all of the garments that are the same into a bin where they all end up, and then we can take advantage of that bulk manufacturing principle where we can still do a run of 8 on our 8-head machine and do that 5 times in a row and get out 40 hats. And then we have another system that breaks those all out and separates them back into the individual orders. So, you know, could it get faster? Sure, but we're still figuring that out a little bit. And I think it's just one of those things that, like, mentally our team has to overcome, where, you know, we grew so fast that we got behind, and then they finally got caught up, and then for the past year we've been pretty good at shipping on time. But they need to get in the mindset of, let's ship a day early. Now let's ship 2 days early and 3 days early. And one of the ways we'll probably end up doing that is we'll just change the system to move the date that they see. And if we just gradually do that over time, then they will just naturally get fast. But I think, like anything, once you're caught up, if you're truly at 0, as soon as that next one comes in, you just take it and you go and you do it. So I think we can get there, but we'll see. I don't ever know if we'll get faster than a few days.
When did Namify start to like grow a lot? Was it when like COVID came out and they came out with Exomo, or?
That's a great question. So it was decent size when I joined. I'd say, you know, I'd say that we experienced very quick growth. Like, there's the Utah fastest growing company things, right? Like, when I first started, we were frequently on those lists. And so we experienced that quick growth. But I'd say we flatlined when we hit around 10 million in revenue. And that was a hard number to overcome. And we were just like, you know, we were keeping up. It's not like we weren't growing, but we weren't experiencing those 20, 30% growths anymore. It was always like 6, 7 year over year. And then when Axomo came out, you know, and people debate when that came out too, because I started Brand Store back in 2012, but it didn't become Axomo until like 2018. And that's when we started going to shows, like HR shows promoting Axomo was in 2018. When we started doing that, Axomo tripled every year. And at the beginning, that didn't mean anything, right? When I take something that's did $2,000 to $6,000 and it triples in a year, that's still like, well, that was dumb, but it tripled, right? But that pattern continued year over year over year over year, to the point where the Axoma orders now account for about 94% of the orders that Namify does. And it is the leading growth driver too. And so, again, the economy slowed some, so we're not tripling this year, thankfully, because it lets us breathe. But we'll still see a good 20% growth this year. And it's definitely, in my opinion, it's going to be the leading driver for us for the future too.
What's the culture like there?
I think we suffer from a lot of what small businesses do, where you get, your departments who have their own cliques and cultures, right? And it's your department. I think they all get along great. I think they're awesome. I think people love people, right? I think when we do monthly pulse surveys, and our top result every month is always, I love the people I work with. And so the people absolutely love each other. We are still very, gritty small business style company where it's like we're cheap, and people can feel that sometimes internally, and we do things to appreciate them, and we do what we can. But I'd say it's a place where if you are really driven to grow and look for opportunities, you're going to find them. And if you like to whine and complain, you'll probably find some of that too. But you're going to get what you put in. Probably my best answer behind it, yeah.
So how does your company promotions look like?
My company promotions, what do you mean?
Like, what do you guys, you guys just say, hey, you guys know everything, so pick out everything.
Yeah, get what you want. That's it. Like,
there
you
you go.
don't need to make that decision anymore, and that's the whole point. Like, if you ask, like, our CEO and me always get asked, so what's the latest, coolest thing? I have no idea. Like, but I can go pull the data if you want. I can tell you what other people like, but it's like, get what you want. And that served us well. I mean, one of my favorite stories is we have a facilities guy who, he was not a spender. He amassed like somewhere around $800 or $900 worth of credits over the years because he didn't put in anything. And we finally went to him and we're like, what do you want? Like, you have all this money, like, let us get you something. And he ended up getting one of those giant canopies, like the 12 by 12 pop-up tents that you see at trade shows, which is like a $500 item. And then his wife saw that, and she's like, wait, you have money for clothes? And then she got on him. And she spent it every year down. Back there.
Okay, so this is kind of an oddball question, but I'm a software developer. You were just like, I can ask you this. How much free rein do you give your developers to act almost as product managers, or kind of decide the priorities of your software or product? Or do you have product managers? Like, because I notice it's kind of a weird battle usually between product managers and the software developers.
If they had a good idea, I'd let them run with it, no question. Most of my devs, I hire junior devs who like the guidance and the direction and need to be told what to do, and they need to be told explicitly what to do. And so we strike a good balance, but every once in a while, like, they'll come back and they'll be like, this is dumb, or this is a better way, and you better believe I listen to them. And I'm in a great spot because I understand, right? Like, I'm a developer, and so I get, like, some things aren't meant to scale, and we do have to go back and refactor, and there's a cost to that, right? And, I don't know who here has heard the phrase technical debt, but I've heard that thrown out tons, and I had no idea what it meant forever, and then I finally talked to ChatGPT about it, and now I understand what technical debt is. And that's what, just like when you go and get debt to start your business, right? Or a house, that's a good kind of debt because it lets you get more than you would be able to get with your money. So in software, you might cheat and you might take shortcuts just to get your MVP out, right? And if you do that, that's great because it lets you get your product to market fast. But eventually you're gonna have to go back and pay that debt, and you're gonna have to do it right. And that's why Axoma struggles in speed, is because I have taken so many shortcuts over the years. I call my code greedy, where it pulls tons of data and it pulls way more data than it needs. But I did it because it was fast. I didn't need to think through every little scenario that was gonna happen. And now we are paying the price for that. I have to go back and we have to refactor some things, we have to change it, we have to make it more efficient. So, technical debt's fine, just like regular debt. You just have to be aware of it and have a plan and recognize that someday you're gonna have to go do it the right way. And thank goodness you did it the short way if it doesn't, right? Like if you spent all this time and energy and your idea fails completely, like how much better is it that you didn't really do it the right way? Because then you can fail fast and you can move on. So that's a great question.
One more question.
All right. You got the final word right here if you
Oh,
want it.
me?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I don't know if I want that. I was just thinking on those terms, what you just said there. Shoot, I think I lost it now. I lost it. Pass it on.
We'll go down here. You've had a bunch. I'll be around a little later too. Yeah.
Who's your ideal customer now?
Our ideal customer now, it's a great question. I really love companies with about 500 employees. We can do the big ones, but their compliance and their legal teams are just the worst to work with. And it's a long, long sales process. So if you can get me at 500, that's where I think we add the most value, because your organization probably is a little bit more spread. It's not so central. It's a little bit more difficult to manage. You can take advantage of a lot of the tools and things that we have that can help make your life easier. And you'll start to see a lot more of that return I talked about, where you can have actually, even though your items cost more, you actually save money because not everyone's spending it. And you probably have a pretty cool brand by that point too. That people want to brand. So I should say about 500 is a sweet spot. But you can go all the way down to like a startup with one person, or you can go all the way up to the big ones.
So 500 is good. I mean, when you say you could go down to one, but like in terms of like other small businesses, where does it start to get where I couldn't just get a box of them delivered to my room and hand them out?
Well,
right?
it makes sense for us all day. It just doesn't make sense for them, because they're gonna have to be paying some of the setup fees and the software fees to get their logo and everything going. So the startup costs are probably a little bit more than the small business owner's gonna want to pay to get it running. But like again, we make one all day, so I don't care if you're a shop of one. We can figure it out, and the system's just set up so it just flows through. Okay.
Thank you, Mike.